Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonia. So today I'd like to go through something a little bit different and a little bit interesting as well. So it's actually my model on healing from limerence. Okay, it's called the Re.Live model because when you heal from limerence, it's like reliving your life all over again. Okay, I assure you. Um it's a three-step model, okay, that I've kind of developed after talking to so many people with limerence, after having gone through limerence myself, and after speaking to so many clients about their issues as well. And really, at the heart of limerence is two things. Okay, number one, it's about you, yourself, and your relationship with you. And the second thing is really about love. Okay, many limerent people, okay, whether they realize it or not, are actually really in want and in need of love. Okay, love makes the world go round. Okay, love is everything. Um, and for the limerent individuals out there, it's all about, wanting someone to love them and wanting that person to love them back as well. Okay, and it's not so much about the obsession or the addiction to someone, the emotional highs and lows. Those are the kind of, not so healthy patterns that we have developed as a result of our experiences with love and rejection and abandonment and stuff like that, okay, throughout our lives. What really most people want is love. Okay, but it's just that for limerent people, their way of getting there could have been, quite faltered a little bit because of things that have came up along the way. Okay, so I'll kind of like to talk a little bit about this model today, and hopefully this will actually help you in your own healing process as well. So it's made of three steps. I'll go through each step really briefly. Starting with the diagnosis step. Okay, so let me just move on to the next slide. So yeah, diagnosis. It's kind of just really what I kind of talk a lot about on this channel. So really kind of finding out why are you limerent in the first place. Okay, so here is where the bulk of the work at the beginning would be done in. Okay, so we will go through, with clients, I go through various, previous romantic experiences that they had, relationships that they had with other people, interactions, friendships in general. Because when you are actually limerent for someone, it shows a not so healthy attachment pattern, and usually these attachment patterns can show up in other areas of your life as well, where your relationships are concerned. Okay, and there's a lot of deep diving into childhood stories, any kind of childhood trauma. A lot of limerent individuals have have faced some sort of neglect, abandonment, rejection in childhood from their caregivers or from the people around them and their peers. Okay, so a mini story about myself is that when I was much younger, in my before I hit my teens. Okay, so I was kind of looking for affection from everybody because there was some stuff going on in my home, and I didn't feel very loved. Okay, I didn't feel very loved. I didn't feel very accepted, and I didn't feel like I belonged um anywhere really. Yeah. So in school as well, I would have very intense attachments with friends, and when they had other friendships or when they went off, and we went off to different classes, different schools, and they kind of, the friendship kind of fades a bit. I would feel really, really abandoned and really rejected by them. Okay, so you might have stories like that when you were younger as well. Maybe experiences with bullying, which is also a form of rejection and abandonment. And you could have, kind of faulty relationship with emotions. I think a lot of people in our society has a very poor relationship with their emotions. So it's not just limerent people. But as a society, we have not been, socialized, not been allowed to actually talk about our emotions. We are not allowed to express them properly, especially, for example, when it comes to things like anger, okay, or sadness. Sometimes people get very judgy about people that express their sadness about something or cry about something. I've ever I kind of watch. I don't usually cry in my day to day, but I do watch movies, and I listen to things, and it really touches me and I cry, and people will be like bit weirded out by that. Yeah, and another area of emotions that people really struggle with is actually anger. Huge struggle that our society has, which is why you see anger being repressed and then being expressed in very unhealthy ways. And you kind of know what I'm talking about when you see the global geopolitical situation that is going on. Okay, so our society really struggles with it. All human beings struggle with it because um when yeah, when you don't have a good foundation of emotional expression when you were a kid, you would definitely bring that into your childhood. Another area of diagnosis that I will kind of go through as well as a very big area is the beliefs and experiences that people have around relationships. It's not just love, right? So, like I mentioned just now, people have kind of faulty attachment styles, and sometimes these attachment styles show themselves up in their friendships as well. When it comes to relationships, love, whatever in life, actually, we all have our own beliefs and experiences around different things in life. So you could be telling yourself, a story about how love is super difficult to find and how the man or the woman around you just totally, completely suck. Okay. Which is something that I know a lot of people are experiencing right now because of how kind of, I would say, screwed up the dating world has become. Okay. And people are really struggling to actually find someone that they really love, because everyone is struggling. So, and everyone is kind of struggling with the relationship with themselves, which is something I'll talk about later. But beliefs and experiences are a very big part of the model, the first step of the model. Um, Another area that we'll kind of look at as well is the tendency for an individual to escape or to obsess over something. So, what I've noticed about limerent individuals, this is not in scientific literature or anything because science is still not interested in limerence, but what I've noticed is that people have this, individuals who have a tendency to be limerent have a tendency to engage in a lot of imagination, fantasy thinking, daydreaming, which involves the romantic feelings and adoration from someone else. Okay, so there's a lot of that kind of thinking, fantasy thinking, and then they obsess about a specific person, okay, real or imagined. And the cycle kind of just feeds itself, okay, because mini story again, as a child and even now, I can still be a very imaginative and a very daydreamy person. So I was even worse when I was younger. Um, I, engaged in a lot of fantasy thinking, a lot of fantasy thinking. And fantasy thinking is a sign that you are trying to escape your reality. Okay. Trying to escape your reality. So there's something going on in your life right now or in general that you are incredibly unhappy about or is causing you extreme sadness. So in coping with that sadness, because sometimes we just cannot, solve the issue. It could be an ongoing family issue, it could be an ongoing job problem, so many things. It comes across unsolvable to us. So what we do, we escape into our minds. Okay, we escape into the fantasies that we think up. The dating world sucks, right? So we escape into our fantasies of being with Prince Charming or Princess, um Princess Charming, do you call it that? Yeah. So people escape because there are issues with their current reality. And again, another caveat, everybody does a little bit of daydreaming, but the key here is to not overly obsess or get so much into your fantasy thinking and your imaginations that it over consumes your reality, because reality is the here and now. It's not what is going on in our heads, it's what is going on in front of us. And um life is sometimes hard. Okay, it's harder for some people than for others. um but sometimes it has to be lived in a certain way. Okay, it has to be dealt with. So the fantasy thinking, the escapism, it took me decades to realize this, but it's actually a way of escaping your reality and escaping yourself. Okay, and another area or pattern of limerence that is actually really a very big area, actually, it's the cognitive patterns and the habits that people actually have. So what I've noticed about limerent people, and this is all tied together, okay, so they have very unupdated cognitive patterns and habits that actually affect how they actually move about life, move about in the dating world, how they actually approach other people, how they perceive other people approaching them. And these patterns or habits were actually formed from experiences that happened way, earlier in life. And this is something I like to say, sometimes when we are children, we can't really help what happened to us. We are dependent on other people for our survival. We are dependent on other people to keep us safe, to love us, and to where they can be a trusting, psychologically safe environment for us. But many children grow up not having that, not having some of that. And it does affect, the way we see love um, as we grow up, because when you do not have healthy role models for love when you are a child, it's very difficult to role model healthy, non-toxic love behaviors when you're older, unless you unlearn those lessons that you learned when you were younger. Okay. But many of us, okay, because we weren't aware of it, we weren't told, we are actually not super aware of our cognitive patterns and habits, and how it actually keeps us locked into pretty unhealthy and unhelpful ways of living. Okay, and I consider limerence a pretty unhealthy and unhelpful way of living, because ultimately you want a healthy relationship where you can be yourself, but you are not getting it through limerence. So these are the couple of areas where we will kind of explore why you are limerent. And trust me, even though everybody has, you know, some smatterings of all of these things, each and every limerent story that I've heard is different. Okay. There may be some, overlaps about childhood trauma. There may be some things about some unhealed wounds, some rejection stuff that appeared in the teenage years. It's all different. We all have our own unique stories. Okay. And this is the step where we will kind of go through all of that. Okay. It can be pretty heavy, can be pretty upsetting, can be pretty painful for a lot of people. Um, but it's necessary. Okay, so let me just move on to the next stage of the model. So the next stage, oh, okay, before that, I do have some Limerence resources that I'll link down in the description box below. So this is two of the many resources that I have. So the one on the left is actually a book that I recently wrote on how to break up with limerence and romantic obsession. I do have another book coming up on parasocial relationships, but that is specifically for people who are limerent for celebs. Do look out for that. And I also have a some material from a workshop that I did last year on emotional unavailability, a very big thing in limerence. And, the question that all limerents have, whether they would be able to find love. So check them out below. So, okay, moving on. Okay, step two, it's about healing yourself. Okay, I am a very extremely firm believer of having a strong sense of self. Okay, because everything about your life, everything goes back to how you perceive things, how you feel things, and how you react to life. Okay, um, for example, okay, if you lack self awareness, you may not be, even aware that you are limerent at all. If you lack self trust, okay, you may find it hard to make good decisions, may find it hard to trust your own judgment. You make poor judgments in other people as a result. Okay. Self esteem. A very big thing in limerence is a lack of self esteem. Self esteem is slightly different from self worth. Okay, self esteem kind of builds, kind of has a little bit of overlap with self confidence. Okay, it's all about, knowing yourself, feeling good about yourself, and having that kind of, I would say, trust and belief that you can, you know, go through life in a positive manner. Okay, in a healthy manner. Many times when you lack self esteem or your self esteem levels are a little bit lower, you have a tendency to attract partners that are actually not fantastic for you. I don't know whether you realize that, but for me, because I've been on the lower scale of self esteem previously, the people that I tended to be attracted to were people that didn't treat me very well. Because, at the end of the day, all these things here, okay, all these things here on the model, on this page, they reflect how they treat you, how you treat you, sorry. So when you treat yourself a certain way, you give off a certain sort of energy, certain behaviors, and certain attitudes. The way you move in the world is a bit different. And that then attracts and repels certain people, to or away from you. Okay, so when you have, or when I had lower self esteem, I tended to attract people that were emotionally unavailable because I was unavailable myself. I tended to attract people that were very harsh and very critical of my looks because I was as well to myself. And I attracted people that kind of just kept me very small, through controlling behaviors, through a certain form of possessiveness that I didn't enjoy. Um, all these things. So when you do not treat yourself well, okay, people tend to not treat you well as well, or you attract certain people that perpetuate the feelings that you have about yourself. It's just really, really interesting. Um, but when I started kind of healing myself, going in, digging up stuff about myself, facing my fears, you know, facing some of my flaws, it's a very, very the transformation is really cool because you find yourself taking back your power from many things outside of you. You're no longer wedded to what people think about you, but you just know that you can do something and can go through life in a great way because you are amazing. Okay, so self knowledge is everything, and it's something that I always, always tell my clients. It's super important to know yourself inside out because knowing yourself inside out, that self knowledge is power. And when you have power, no one can take that power away from you, okay? Because it's yours and it's for you to keep. So this is the second part of the model, and it's also a very big part, okay, that we go through, but incredibly worth it. So people come out telling me that they found out things about themselves that they never knew. um it's not that you never knew. Sometimes it's there, but we just don't see it because we are not aligned with that energy. Okay, so on the very third, okay, again before that, more resources. So I wrote two guidebooks on self-love and self-esteem, so you can check it out in the description box below. Both will help you to build a better relationship with yourself. So moving on to the third part of the model, okay, which is love, right? Attracting the love that you want. That's why we are limerent. We want a certain kind of love, okay? So once you've gotten off your limerent habits, you've healed yourself mostly. Um, you will find that you know yourself much better. Okay, relationships and love take on a very different feel. You start to be attracted to people who you previously probably didn't think that you were worthy of, or whatever. You start being attracted to them, and they get attracted to you as well. Okay, you start to attract people into your lives that actually really like you and really want to be with you. And I've mentioned this before in my workshop previously, but limerence and love, they operate on very different energy levels. Okay. Um, you won't be able to attract or recognize healthy reciprocal love if you are in a constant limerent state. Okay. When you are limerent, you are very, very obsessed with your own feelings and your own thoughts. So it's kind of like a very, very exhausting mental pattern that you actually go through every day. It's a mental exercise. It's all in your head. Okay. The fantasy is all in your head. But when you come out of that fantasy and you're in reality, okay, you will find that when you start interacting with people in a very real manner and you start to be able to explore romantic relationships, you'll find that the energy of that and of just completely being in your head is very different. People are very different in front of you and when they're in your head as well. Okay, because when you are thinking about people and fantasizing about people, you can very easily project any amount of, qualities onto them, which may not be real. Okay, so when you've known yourself well enough, you've healed from limerence, you'll be able to determine your relationship values. Okay, you'll be able to determine who you want in a partner, who you are in a relationship, how you want to appear. You start to learn the tools to figuring out what you want, in love. What is love to you? What are red flags? What are green flags? You start to be able to suss that out for yourself. You start knowing what you truly want in a partner, right? And that's kind of where everyone who wants to be in a relationship, wants to get to, right? It's a very different energy, and I assure you, once you get out of that whole limerent phase, you will no longer find limerence or being limerent attractive. Okay, so I'd just like to kind of talk a little bit about sidetrack a little. Okay, not so much of a sidetrack, but when you get there, you get there. Okay, so this is again my I love my models, as you can tell. This is my 5 stage relish model. So this is how you people actually um, how I don't want to use the word should, but yeah, how people actually should be dating. Like this should be a guide, excuse me, for how you actually date better. Okay, because um lots of times the dating world is currently super screwed because there are so many people messing up at stage 0, not knowing what they're looking for, not knowing what red flags are out there, not even bothering to assess the person that they're dating, immediately jumping from stage 0 to stage 4, stage 1 to stage 4, fast forwarding, breadcrumbing, and then not catching red flag behavior. Red flag behavior is actually, I wouldn't say all the time, but most of the time, it's actually rather observable. But because we are so busy and so anxious trying to get the person to like us in stage 0, when really at stage 0 and 1, you're kind of just talking. You're just talking, getting to know a person. It's supposed to be fun, but you're also supposed to be looking out for red flags. But most people don't do that. Until they're at stage 3 and 4, and then they're wondering like, oh my god, why is this guy or why is this girl like that, right? But a lot of things can be picked out earlier on. So this is the model for dating that I kind of recommend people to follow, because every relationship has a certain organic growth to it, certain development, certain way of moving. And if you're jumping too many steps or too many stages, you are actually not experiencing certain things with your partner. So when you're jumping straight from connecting to trying to commit to one another, you're missing out so much in between. You don't even know what a person's values are. You don't even know how your dynamics really are. How are they like with your family? How are they like with different friends? How are they like on holiday? How are they like when they're stressed out? How they are like when they are angry? How do you solve problems? You don't know any of that. Basically, you don't have any information about the person, but you know, because you want that love so much, and I really question whether that is love really. You want that connection with someone so much, you are just, immediately just committing to someone who is there in your life, which is what I feel a lot of people do. So this is one model of dating that we'll actually go through. So that kind of summarizes, my entire model. So let me just go back to that. So this is something that yeah, I kind of take my clients through. I sometimes remind myself as well, because there have been times randomly that I found myself like feeling like kind of falling to the limerent black hole again. And then I kind of go through all these steps again. Necessary. Okay. Learning and growing is always something that is always in progress. It's never ending. But we should never give up on ourselves. Okay, so before I end, again, more resources. Okay, I have lots of resources. So I'll link this down in the description box below. It's how to build up self awareness if you feel like you are not able to understand yourself well. It's also how to kind of start breaking up the limerent patterns that you've been carrying around. Okay, so just a summary of the resources that you'll find below. The links are all in the description box. And also something else that I'd like to point out before I leave, I do have coaching sessions open. These are currently email coaching sessions, because I just don't have the bandwidth at the moment for video coaching sessions. So they're $29 per session. It's completely you just come with what you need to ask me. There are people asking me whether I have packages. I do have packages, but we can actually work out how many sessions you want to come for, and we will just set the amount, the coaching fees from there. Okay, so all the details are in the description box. Would love to work with you if you have something that's troubling you about limerence. And with that, I'm wishing you all the best in your healing journey. Okay, don't give up, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, guys.